Hi, everyone, and welcome to Sales B12, the one dose of sales you don't want to miss. And I'm here with Jack Daly, guru of all things sales. And I am Caryn Kopp, Chief Door Opener at Kopp Consulting, where we get our clients in the door with their prospects for the first meeting. And today we're talking about one of Jack's three cardinal sins, which is why making your bestseller the sales manager is one of the three cardinal sins. So this is a common blunder that we've seen many companies make. They have a great seller, one of their best contributors, and they're so great that the leader in the organization decides to promote them into what they think is the next step in a seller's career, right up until it's not. So, Jack, you talk about the three cardinal sins, and this is definitely one of them. Why is this sin ranked so high?
Yeah. Hey, listen, Caryn, if the listener can get this right, like all of the other B12s, we're adding value, I think, each episode. But this one here, if you get this right, your business can't help but grow measurably because so many people get it wrong. So for those that aren't aware of what those three sins that I talk about are, and then we'll narrow on to this one. But the three sins that I see is one, the entrepreneur, business owner, CEO also at the same time is wearing the hat of the sales manager, which by default means that you're growing your company part-time because the person who really grows the revenue side, the sales side, is the sales manager or the chief revenue officer or the EVP of sales, whatever we call that person. So if you want to grow your sales force in quantity and quality, and that's what the sales manager's job is, and that's the title I'm going to give that person. So if you really want to grow your business, you don't want to be growing it part-time. So that's sin one. Sin two is the one that you brought up, which is taking the best salesperson we have on the team and somehow making them the sales manager. And I'll come back to that and talk about why that's such a mistake. And then the third one, which I think might be worse than all of them, and that's where we take the best salesperson, we make them the sales manager and say, continue with your territory and sell. And that's such a disaster. Anyway, let's go back to hey, let's take the top producer and make him the sales manager. First thing that I would tell you, first thing right away, is the way you ask the question. It happens so often. Stop calling it a promotion.
Right.
And I use the term making them into the sales manager as opposed to promoting them, because when you use inside your company, language counts. When you use the word promote, every salesperson thinks that should be the next rung. That's what I should stretch for. And yet the overwhelming majority of salespeople are going to be happier and more productive at doing what they're really good at, which is selling, right? So what often happens, and you and I mean, we're sharing things that we see every day. What
Every
very
day.
often happens is you lose your best sales producer and get a mediocre sales manager in the trade. And the fundamental reason why that is true is because they're entirely different skill sets. A salesperson wins new customers and grows the ones they have. A sales manager is assessing whether they've got the right people in the seats and then recruiting, training, coaching, building, and developing out the sales force. And there was nothing that went over on the sales side that prepared them for that sales management side. And here's the last piece on this. And I know you've got other questions coming at me, but here's the last piece on this part. And that is, how does that transition work from, hey, you're now the sales manager? And what it typically is a handshake and says, congratulations, you're now the sales manager. And the business owner CEO then turns their back and walks away. And the top sales guy is going, well, what do I do? And no one trains them. So it's a OJT, make it up as you go along scenario. And the destruction that takes place amongst the salespeople that were looking for someone to elevate their game, and this person isn't equipped to elevate their game.
Right. And then they're miserable too. I mean, somebody who you and I both know very well, at one point in his career was given the opportunity to be promoted to the sales manager. And he said to me, I don't think I'm going to like this. I'm an individual contributor. I like being in control of my own destiny, but this would be the next rung in my sales career. He thought that too. So he did it and he hated it. He would say to me, I can't tolerate one more person telling me they can't make calls because they have a tummy ache, right? Like, who, I don't even want to hear that stuff. And then his success was predicated on somebody else's tummy ache.
Right.
Like, no, thank you. He didn't like it. And exactly what you're saying is exactly what happened. But, here's the question then. How do you find a good salesperson? Like where, if, I mean, not a salesperson, sorry. How do you find a good sales manager? Especially if somebody wants to promote from within, they want somebody who really understands their company, the culture, their products or services. So where do good sales managers come from in that situation?
Yeah. So uh, I'm going to just tag on that last example you gave with that individual. Protect them from themselves. They know not what they ask.
Mhm.
Really, so often when I see a top producer that proclaims they want that sales manager position, when I detail out what that's going to mean, what that job really entails, oh, I don't want that. Find out what's really getting them to raise their hand for that. Is it they want a bigger office? Is it they want a car? Is it they want some kind of a bonus? They want a title change? I mean, I give all of that very liberally. I'm very, very much a stickler when it comes to who's going to run the sales team. So
Yeah,
now go
that
go go
should be.
go. Yep. So
In that
now,
person's scenario, Jack, it wasn't any of those things. He was very happy where he was. It
hmm,
was leadership who came to him.
yeah.
Yeah,
So look, there's a combination of things that you asked me there, and so when does it make sense to take somebody inside the company and elevate them, if you will, and give them that job of sales management?
right.
And so when their passion, because you hit on that a little bit earlier, when their joy button comes more from developing other people
Hmm.
than winning a sale, that's the
Interesting.
moment of ready. So I've closed $100 million deals, and I actually I have like two tombstones that were in the Wall Street Journal. That
Nice.
that one I just held up was 250 million. This one's 30 million. This one dates back to 1978. Man, I'm old.
And it's sitting on
And
your desk.
but
Look at,
that those were big moments,
yeah.
closing big deals that made it into the journal. But when I lost the zest for doing that, because hey, check that box. I could show you all kinds of tombstones all over the place here. I'm proud of them, but what I really like is when I take somebody that shows grit and shows energy and shows work ethic and she raises her hand and says, if you could take me to another level, that's that. And then I do. That
Yeah.
joy button is big. So when we have somebody on our team that is exhibiting that, is articulating that, then I'm there. And I have to warn those really top producers in selling that the potential income could be less in that new role than
Right.
you as a top producer. Are you ready to forego that? And look, deal with the tough things in conversation before you make the move, right? Now, let me flip this one more piece, and that is if you're not going to go internally, how do you find them on the outside? And
Hmm.
how you find them on the outside is this: keep your eyes open and look for great sales teams. Because wherever their sales team is like a really top-notch sales team, guaranteed there's top-notch sales managers behind them. And
Yeah.
that's where you go. And I'm going to give the bonus here. And the bonus is and most people miss this. That sales manager does not need to come from your industry.
Yeah,
The role that they'll learn your industry, they'll learn the business, but they're not in the job of having to sell that product or service.
yeah,
But what a sales manager does, remember what it is: assess the team, recruit, train, coach, build, and develop salespeople. If they're good at it in one industry, they're going to be good at it in other industry. When I'm on stage and I'm going and teaching all this stuff, I will sometimes stop and pause and say, hey, look, I know I've got a pretty big ego, but here's the deal. Does anyone in this room, no matter what your industry, does anyone doubt that if I came into your company and was a sales manager, we'd have a kick-ass time and really produce some results? And everybody just starts laughing. Like,
yeah,
of course you could. Well, I don't know your business. I don't know your industry. And I don't have an exclusivity here. There are other guys that are capable of doing that. And go find that other guy, and guy meaning male or female. I don't care how you're plumbed, right? So,
yeah.
I'm all for internal promotions. I'm not against that, but they got to be ready. And there's no excuse why you couldn't find a good one outside of your company. Yeah.
Right. And they just have to be right too. And a couple pieces of input from my perspective as well is that a sales manager is not a sales manager is not a sales manager, just like a hunter is not a hunter is not a hunter, right?
Perfect.
So there are certain kinds of people who are really good at figuring out strategy. So if you're going into a new market, if you're opening up a new division, you're starting something entirely from scratch, that's a certain kind of person. And then other kinds of sales managers I've seen can take an existing process that's already been laid out and really build it to the next level. It's already in place. That process is already there. They just make it better. And so in addition to what you're saying, when you go to interview these right people, figure out, are they a strategist? Or are they the kind of person who can walk into something that's already laid out, the process is already done, and they can just take it to the next level?
Hey, listen, you and I both hang around with a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
Um, and the same could be said of them, that what makes a great entrepreneur in a startup, once that company gets to a certain level, when I'm coaching, I tell them it very well could be the time for you to continue to own the company, but bring in a new CEO to run
right.
your business. And maybe you can light the spark under something else that will initiate, because you're really good at that, right?
Yeah,
I have a client that's on his way to growing $1 billion company, and
nice.
when we started working together, it was less than $100 million company. But but the day to day he would not be great at, and so he has an equal in the company that does all of that, so that he can create new enterprises, and has
Yeah,
launched 3 since then, right?
yeah, that's
And
awesome.
that scenario that we're talking right now about the entrepreneur is identical in the sales management side. So
Yeah, I think that's,
let me flip a
yeah,
question to you. Uh, uh,
sure.
uh, how do we get new managers to succeed, like early in the game, once we bring them in? Because you've done this over the years.
Yeah. Well, there are two things. One is something that you said before, is that the leader shouldn't be so excited that he or she now has a sales manager that they go off into the sunset, right? Don't turn your back on the fact that you have a new leader in place, and make sure that you have an onboarding program that works. Like one of the things that we do with our onboarding program internally is that it's an extension of our hiring process. I tell people right up front, not everybody makes it through our onboarding process. So therefore, as they're going through a process that I'm recommending is well defined by the leader, make sure that you have quizzes along the way and checkpoints before they get out of your onboarding process to confirm that you actually did make the right hire before you turn them loose on the sales team and get a consequence that you didn't anticipate.
Wow. So that's really that's pretty insightful. You've got to be incredibly patient to do that. And how long of a period of time is it before they make the transition into being active in the seat, so to speak?
Yeah, well, I think that depends on the business you're walking into. Like, what would you recommend as a good rule of thumb?
You know, I I'm guilty of hiring the person and giving them the reins right away. So the onboarding process that you're describing is intriguing to me. Uh,
Yeah,
like I I have this thing that says I wouldn't have hired the person if I didn't think they were capable. So I want them in the seat as quickly as possible. So gosh, but what you just said really resonated with me. It's really smart. So now it's to answer the question. You're testing my patience. I can't go any more than 60 days. I'll probably be there by 30 days.
yeah.
Because I've got so much energy that I want to get going, right?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think a quarter is a good barometer, a 30, 60, 90. And I think a lot of mistakes that get made when people ask a leader or a new sales manager for a 30, 60, 90 is that there's no onboarding process that goes with it from the company. It's
Yeah.
just the 30, 60, 90 from the sales leader, the new sales manager, just trying to figure this out. If you have a structured onboarding process in place for management, as people do typically for salespeople, it will ensure a greater degree of success and sooner than later. That would be my recommendation.
I freaking love this. I do CEO coaching. I have at least two clients right now that come to mind that I'm putting this piece into play. This makes so much sense, and we've hired some new people on, and I've been anxious about it. But that'll subside the anxiety that I have because we're going to stay closer into the reins. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, awesome. Well, I'm really glad we had this Sales B12 today of not committing the cardinal sin of making your bestseller the sales manager. I hope everybody has liked it and will continue to watch the other episodes of Sales B12. Thanks, Jack.
Caryn, you're the best. Thanks.